Hello everybody and welcome to another Transport Fever tutorial. This time I'm going to show you how to use the flying camera. Before I do that, let me just show you where it is. If from the main menu, if you go into Settings and Advanced, if you haven't already got this enabled, Debug Mode, you need this box ticked. So Settings, Advanced, Enable Debug Mode, click Apply and then load your game up. So once your game's loaded up, if you go up to the top right hand corner of the screen over here in your options panel, you will now have the camera. This will give you a camera manager and you can select still photographs or videos. I'm just going to turn it off a second. You want to pick your camera position first, where you're going to start from. The reason being is because your controls are going to change once you open the camera tool, and I'll show you what happens in a second. So let's start from down here somewhere. Right, let's get the camera manager open. Right, when you open it, it'll pause your game. Excuse me. As soon as you click play on the video, once you've recorded a few keyframes, it'll play through and you can record, but it'll push your time forward as well. I'll explain a bit more about that shortly. Okay, so first of all, take your hand away from the keyboard. The reason being is because W, A, S and D no longer work. Once this is open, the only key of that works is A, and A is add a keyframe. And if you've got your hand on the keyboard on the WASD keys, which I usually have when I'm playing, you accidentally press A, you'll add extra keyframes in by mistake. So take your hand off the WASDs. Right, now your middle mouse button is to rotate the view. That's pretty normal. You can zoom in and out using the mouse wheel. Your left mouse button now is your Z axis. So you hold your left mouse button down and you can move the camera up and down on the Z axis. The right mouse button is your X and your Y axis, so that will move back and forward, side to side. Your left mouse button is up and down, and your middle mouse button is to rotate the camera or to zoom in and out. Now the thing about not having WASD keys is that if you want to move around the map now, in order to do so, what you have to do is click your right mouse button and drag the screen, and then click and drag, click and drag, click and drag, and click and push to move it backwards. So you can rotate, click and push, and then up and down. It gives you a lot more control over the camera, heck of a lot more control than you normally would have. Okay, so once you get used to the movements, which are a little bit tricky at first, because they're not the same as the in-game controls, it takes a little bit while getting used to it. So you sort of right click to move around like that, left click to move up and down, mouse button to rotate your view. So you need to sort of figure a combination of those three when you're working. So you can take a screenshot, like I said, pick a nice camera position. When you take your screenshot, you will get, without any, there'll be no GUI, there'll be no symbols, anything that is visible on your normal screen will not be there on your screenshot. So, right, now the video, before we go to the video mode, thank you, autosave. You've got different file sizes here. If you've got a pretty busy map, I suggest dropping the resolution to that one, depending on the number of keyframes you do as well. On lesser maps and things, on things that are not that well built up, you can do a higher resolution, but on mine I find it tends to crash on the higher resolution. This one here is actually the focal length. So you've got the normal game setting. Now these are camera focal lengths, and if you're not familiar with photography or how cameras work, what it basically means is the distance from the front of the lens to the receiver. So the length of the actual lens. So a 35mm lens is actually 35mm from the camera receiver to the end of the lens, and a 400mm is exactly that. So the lower the number, the wider the view. Right. So you can drop to 35mm. That's a normal game view. So a 35mm view will give you quite a close in, quite a wide view. The higher the number, the more the zoom, basically. So the higher the number, the longer, the further you can go. So you can go right, zoom right in. So I'm just going to set it to game for now. I'll go into them a little bit more detail a little bit later. Let's just set it to the low resolution one now, which is still 1280 by 720. It'll still give you a very good resolution at 1080p for your YouTube videos and stuff. I find this is more than adequate. So okay, let's have a look at the video. Let's scroll out a little bit here. Let's go back over here somewhere. Moving around so awkward. Right, so keyframes. When you're doing a video, you set a series of keyframes like you would do stations on a bus, on a train route, or bus stops on a bus route. You want to go from one place to the next place to the next place. So you start off with a single keyframe. That's going to be the very first, whatever position your camera's set at, that's going to be your keyframe. The speed here, 50 milliseconds, is how fast, 50 meters per second, sorry, is how fast it moves over the ground. And then you've got your focal length again. So you can alter that manually, or you can change it using this as well. So the game uses a 21mm, which is a standard wide angle lens. So it's a very shallow lens. It gives you a much wider view, up, down and wide. Whereas a 400mm lens is a very long lens, which he zooms right in. 135, 85 and so forth. So go back to the game, which is a 21mm. Now, we want to move to a second keyframe. So we're going to come over here. So we're just going to drag. I'm not going to touch anything else at the moment. I'm going to drag. We're going to lift up using the left mouse button, and then using the wheel I'm going to rotate the camera view a little bit. So the camera is going to fly from the first position and up to this position looking down. So we're going to set the second keyframe, and I'm going to move, I'm going to turn, I'm going to look a little bit down again, so I want to fly over the market. So let's rotate a little. So right mouse button, left mouse button is rotate. I'm going to keep the altitude the same, and we're going to add in a third keyframe. Now what I want to do now is come in for a drop. So we're going to come over here. I'm going to rotate using the mouse wheel, and then I'm going to drop using the left mouse button. I want the camera to look at the windmill as we fly up and around it. So we want to come towards the windmill using the right mouse button, using the mouse wheel to turn, elevation using the left mouse button, use the right one to come a bit further forward. We are using the right one again. I'm just going to move a little bit further over, because otherwise we're going to clip. So I'll add that one, and then we'll right mouse button, drag it up a bit, left mouse button up over the top of that building, and we'll fly up and over here somewhere. Now this is going to be very fast, and the reason because of these speed settings. So let's have a quick look at it. Oh, flying very fast over. Okay, so let's drop the speed settings. So we'll start off at around, let's start around 15 meters a second. keyframe 2 is over the top of the market, so we'll drop that to, let's drop that to 10. Keyframe 3, 10. Now you notice the numbers change here, so they stay in order, but every time you update one it changes the number, which does get very confusing when you've got a lot of keyframes. I will recommend that you don't go over about 20 keyframes because it does tend to crash when you do that. So let's speed up a little bit here. Let's go up here and let's go to 25 there. Now when we click play, if you click on the keyframe, it'll take you to the individual keyframes and you can alter them. I'll show you what to do when you alter them in a second, but first of all let's just play through that. So we're still starting off a little bit quick there. We're starting at 15, so let's drop that to 5. We'll start off slower. I'll show you how to do a start from almost a sort of ground, like a drone or something, you know. I'll show you how to do that in a minute. So quite smooth over there. A little bit quick coming down there. Now clipping. So if you look at this red line now, this red line is the route of the camera, where the camera is taking, and it doesn't take a direct line from position to position, so sometimes you have to move your camera position a little bit. So this one's clipping through that building, so we want it further left. Now this was keyframe 10, so even if you move it, it'll still stay the same. So what you've got to do is we want it a bit further over there, a little bit further forward. Now record keyframe. That'll update your keyframe. So make sure you know which keyframe you're messing around with before you change it. So if you're unsure, click back on it again just to double check you're on the right one. Because if you change the wrong keyframe, you will really make a mess of things. I've done that so many times. There we go. Like I said, this does run the time on when you're doing this, so you might want to save the game before you start actually running on with your testing your flyovers before you record them. That's still a little quick there, but oh, still clipping that edge of that building there. Right. So let's drop that to 5, because we're not covering a lot of ground here at the moment. Now, if you're covering greater distances, you have to increase these, obviously. So now we can move this keyframe over a little bit, and I want to create a bit more of a curve. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add another keyframe in between there. That's added an extra keyframe there, and that will give you an average between the speeds of whatever. So it's added a keyframe halfway through, which is just as we're clipping over the edge of that building there. So I'm going to bring this out a little bit, and I'm going to turn it a little bit, and I'm going to save it there. Now let's see if that's fixed that. So you can alter the route. As you can see here, look, it follows a snaky route through the points. So it will try and keep a relatively smooth. Oh, autosave kicked in there. A relatively smooth journey between the points, unless you change the angle of the camera very radically. So there you go. We're going up and over the building now, and we're not hitting the windmill. And we just skip up that top of that building. Right, so that's how you create a flyover. You add keyframes, and you've got to think of it as like a route from one frame to the next. So the camera will follow a snaky sort of path between the two. Try to create the best line it can. Like I said, don't go from one frame and then spin the camera around like this to the next frame. You do that, the camera will whip round really fast. So you want to try and keep your sort of lateral movements to a minimum as much as you can. I hope that's clear. I hope you can understand me from that. Yeah, I'm not a very good teacher. Yeah, right. So if you want to save those, you can go ahead and click on there, save keyframes, give it a certain name. So let's call it tutorial 1. And we can go ahead and record that. If you want sound, you will get only video from this, because this is going to put the files out. It's not going to give you a video file. It's actually going to give you a folder full of individual frames, hundreds of them. And then I'm going to show you how to do it in a minute. We're going to have to process the files into a video format. But if you want sound on this as well, then you're going to have to do 2 recordings. So you record your keyframes, you save your keyframes, then you save your game at the point where you're ready to play. Then get a sound recorder or a screen recorder. I can give you a link to a free one down in the description. I use one called iScreen Screen Recorder, and it just pops up a little app that you can click on record and then turn the volume up a little bit. And I press play and I record the audio first, and then I reload the game and then come back and then I hit this button to record it, so that both recordings are starting at exactly the same point. You'll then have to use a video editor later to edit the audio onto the video as well. I'll get into that in a little while. So we're going to record this one because it's not very long. So now the recording goes at quite a slow rate. Same with the video processing. You're going to have to wait a little while depending on the spec of your computer, whether you've got SSDs and things like that, and how fast your processor is. So mine's quite slow, so it takes quite a while. In fact, I'm going to come back to you in a second when this is finished recording. Right, so we're just coming up to the end now. I'm going to show you another technique in a second. Now I'm going to explain a little bit more about adding videos together and putting them together to create longer sequences. Like I said, you want to try and keep keyframes below about 20 separate keyframes. You don't want to have dozens and dozens of them in there, because it's more likely to crash the game, and it's, you know, you end up with thousands and thousands of files. It can take up a lot of space on your hard drive as well. We're talking gigabytes. Come on, we're not going that far. Right, this should finish in a second. There we go. Right, okay. So that's the first one. That's tutorial 1 setting. So I'm going to show you, if you want to create a drone cam effect. So let's get rid of all these. Let's delete all these. And let's go down onto the beach. I've done this a few times in the past, so let's get the, if you're wondering how I'm clearing the screen, it's Alt, GR and G. So the right hand side Alt button on your keyboard and G together will turn on and off the display. Again, you need the debugging mode on, but I presume you've got that on already by now. So okay, so what we want to do is get rid of this. So we want to get low on the ground. Let's get off that blue bit. There we go. Right, so we're going to create like a takeoff for a drone cam. So we're going to start off at 1 meters per second. Now I'm going to use only my left mouse button at this point. I'm going to take the camera up. I'm going to take it up to a reasonable height. and I'm going to put in the second keyframe there. Let's change that to 25. Let's go over this way. So right mouse button to drag, middle mouse button to turn, left mouse button to change the elevation, right mouse button to drag it a bit, middle mouse button to aim, right mouse. Let's go up here. There we go. I'm going to keep these at 50 because we're going to cover a fair bit of distance here. So let's fly up that mountain there. So left mouse button dragging, and right mouse button dragging, mouse wheel to alter the camera view, and then the left mouse button to alter the height. So let's go up there. Now this is going to start off quite slowly. Oh, and you know it's gone quite quick, but let's change that down to 10. That's gone a bit too quick. There you go. So a bit more of a steady start off there. If you have the second keyframe too far away though, it'll let's delete that one. Let's go to the second one now. Let's see. See now we've got one quite far away. It starts off a lot slower. But if that's the view you want to try and create, I'll show you that one again with that out of the way, because that looks quite nice. So a nice way to start off flying off. Normally what I do when I'm trying to do a drone effect like that is I just go straight up and do it gradually and then fly into something. So I'm just going to record this one just so I've got another folder, and I'll show you what that means in a minute. So I'll be back in a second once this has stopped recording. Right, so that's done. Now I've made a deliberate mistake there. What I should have done is save them keyframes as tutorial 2. But I haven't done. I haven't done on purpose. And I'll show you why in a minute. Let's go and do another really fly attacking me at the moment. Let's go and do another one, and that'll become clearer, and I'll explain that shortly. What I want to do this time, okay, so yeah, turn the camera off if you want to move around the map. It's a lot easier to move around with your keys and stuff. Let's just pause for a second. So there's a train just leaving the station. So we're going to get the camera manager. Now, because I've got keyframes saved in there now, when I click back to the camera manager, it's putting me back to the first keyframe. So if we delete those, go back there. Now, we can start the camera from here. Now I just pressed A then by mistake. That wasn't a deliberate mistake, that was because I've got my hand on the keyboard. I meant to move left slightly, so A will add a keyframe. I didn't mean to do that, so use a right mouse button to drag, mouse wheel to rotate, left mouse button to change the elevation, right mouse button to drag again. So I'm just going to change the elevation. I want to try and follow this train out of here. Now this isn't very easy at all. So in fact, let's go from behind the train. So as you can see, the movement's something that you need to get used to. Let's start behind the train and let's see if we can follow it. Okay, so we're definitely not going to need 50 here. Let's start at 15. So I'm going to drag a bit up. Use the left mouse button to lift up a bit. Use the wheel to rotate. Right mouse button to drag it. So by the time we get here, the train's going to be up here somewhere. Let's try there. Let's try about... It is a lot of trial and error with this, really is at times. Let's try 25. We'll try and capture this train moving. Let's go up. Go to about there. We'll leave it at 50. So let's see what happens here. So going too fast to start off with. Train's not moving quick enough yet. Now, what we're going to have to do now is fast forward and wait for another train to come in. This is the reason why I said to save it before you, when you're setting your keyframes, save it at a certain point. It does mean you're reloading the game constantly, but you have to do it if you try to put these videos together. If you want them seamless, then you have to save at certain points and do individual sets of keyframes. So there's the train. Let's set that to 5. Let's set that to 15. Right, train's just leaving. Let's go. Whoa. I didn't set that first one to 5. There we go, that's a bit more like it. The train's going a little bit quick at the moment because the train was already leaving the station. Well, it's possibly going a bit too quick. This can be rather tricky. That's not too bad actually. I think if that train... Yeah, if we do that a little bit sooner, we can actually follow that train along now. So let's get it further up here. Let's go back to the first keyframe. We'll bring another train in. It'll take too long to come in one after the other pretty much. He says. Right. So we'll get the train as soon as it turns around this time. Now. Getting these numbers right and getting your speeds right, it really is a matter of trial and error. You've just got to keep sort of adjusting, trying different speeds, trying different camera angles. Actually following the trains like this isn't very easy at all. This is something that took me a while to actually master. Well, I say master as he goes flying past the train. It took me a while to even get, you know, remotely good at it. So we're just going to do one more here. Let's bring another train in. Yeah, I'm getting an SSD soon, so hopefully the game will load up a heck of a lot quicker. It'll make this a lot easier. Doing this on an old hard drive, having to reload the game multiple amount of times is very painful. That's why sometimes it takes me 3 or 4 days to actually get one of these flyovers done, and I try to do a whole area because I have to do multiple recordings of keyframes and then edit them all together afterwards. But don't worry about things like this on your recordings because these won't show up. These numbers and things, or your HUD, all that disappears. There we go, that seems a bit better now. Still just a little bit too quick as we go away there. let's drop that to 25. Let's go back to the first keyframe again. Remember, if you want to change your keyframes, you have to hit this after you've moved it. Make sure you're on the right keyframe. If you want to add anything in between, if you want to alter any movement slightly, you can add them. Try not to add them before the first or after the last keyframe, because that will crash the game. It does it quite often. If you need to remove something, it's just that export them all. Let's go again. I'm going to record the sound on this one as well, so play it in the video. I'm going to have to do that separately though. In fact, no, I'm not, because I can't show you what I'm doing anyway. I have two monitors and I have my sound recorder showing on the second monitor. If you want to do it, you'll have to click in and out of the game actually. Ah, there we go. That's a much better flyover. Yeah, happy with that now. Right, let's get a train in, and then I'll click record, and I'll come back to you in a minute. Ready to hit record. There we go again. Right, I shall be back shortly. Right, so that's done. Okay, like I said, if you want sound on it, you have to set your keyframes, save your keyframes, press play, record your sound, or press record on your sound, whatever sound recorder you're using. Let it run through on play, and then reload your save game, and then press record again. It has to be two separate recordings, unfortunately. That's the only way you can get sound onto it. Right, so yeah, and the other thing is as well, if you want to do a full flyover, like I do on my videos where you go all over the place, rather than having hundreds of keyframes, which is, like I said, more than likely going to crash your game, what you do is record 15 to 20 keyframes, try and keep it less than 20. I try and keep it around the sort of 12 to 18 mark if I can, without covering too much. Then what you do is you save them. I should have saved that one, I didn't again. But you save them in order, give them some naming convention, do your recording. Once your recording's done, go and delete all the keyframes apart from the last one. Now, then you start your next one from that point, keeping that keyframe exactly the same. So if I wanted to fly over here, and then I'll come this way, say, and then do another recording like that, and then again save the keyframes, do the recording, delete all the keyframes apart from the last one, and start the next recording off from the last one again. You have to do that. If you want a long recording, you generally have to do it in sequences. Doing that though also helps with the camera rotation. When you're flying around, you can make better camera turns by getting to a point and then starting off and turning the other way. You can get the camera to turn in better directions than you can just by flying over the whole thing. So it's just, like I said, it's trial and error. You've got to keep practicing with it. You've got to keep playing around with it. You just make these recordings, change the keyframes. If you want still shots, you've got a picture editor in there. You can go and get yourself some nice still shots. Record a screenshot there. Right. So now you've done your recordings, you need to find this folder here. Now, it's in your Steam folder, so it'll be in Program Files under your local disk. It'll be either Program Files or Program Files x32, x64, x86, whichever it is on your computer. Steam. Then we want to go User Data, and then we want this folder here. If you've got any others, it's this one, 885.082.455. Then we want 446.800, local, and then recordings. And we've got 3 recordings in there. And if we go back to local, your screenshots are in there, and your save games are in there, your keyframes are in there. So your screenshots are here. You notice I've got a few from previous. That's the last one I took. So go back to local, we'll go to recordings, tutorial 1, and these are all the screenshots. As you can see, absolutely loads of them. This is your video file. This is how it gives it to you. Now, like I said, I made a mistake there. I didn't record the separate keyframes. So now I've got 3 lots of keyframes. So I have to go and figure out which one's which. What we need here is we need a program called Virtualdub, and it's a file processing for video. So I'll give you a link down there in the description. So go and install Virtualdub, load it up when you're ready, and click Open Video File. So you need to find out the location of that folder. I have a shortcut on my desktop there. So recordings. So let's see what the first one is. It should be the first one really. So we'll click on the first file, only the first file, and this Virtualdub will only work if all the files are in sequential order. So click the first one, open it. Looks like the first one. So I'm going to drop the zoom to 75% so I can see the full screen here. It gives you mixed screens. So first thing we need to do is go to video, frame rate, and change frame rate to 30 FPS. So that's here, that's video, frame rate. Click on change frame rate, change it to 30. Now we go file, save as AVI. Now I've already got my folders set up here, so let's have a look here. It's tutorial. So top 1. So I'm going to click save. It's going to take a little while. It only processes at a slow rate. So I'll get these done. I'm going to put them all together, and you can have a look at the videos what they look like when they're flying over. If you have any questions, drop us a comment down there, and I'll answer any questions. If you want me to go into more detail about anything, maybe I'll do another tutorial soon. But hopefully you may have learned something. It took me a while to learn how to use this. So yeah, like I said, if there's anything you're having trouble with, just please ask me a question. By all means, I'll answer it for you. If you want to know about any free video editing or anything like that, I'm not going to do it for you, but I'll tell you how to do it. Alright, thanks very much again for watching, everybody. I'll leave you with the videos. I'll leave you with those little flyovers and show you what they look like. Like I said, there's not going to be any audio on them, so I'll just stick a bit of music over the top of them. And like I said, I hope you've learnt something. Good night, everybody.